Hello, welcome everyone. We're in Dash, day 2. Day 1 was fantastic, and I hope you're also enjoying this second day of Dash. Today we have a fantastic panel on building diverse DevOps team, which is a topic very, very close to my heart. So I'm super glad I was able to moderate this one. Before I let our amazing panelists introduce themselves, a couple of things, a couple of housekeeping items. We want to make this as interactive as possible with the audience. This is why we are doing this live. So take the opportunity to discuss among you, like using the chat feature in hoping to discuss as much as you like. And when you want to create a question that I can ask to the panelists, please use the Q&A tab. So basically we can, I know where to focus on the question. I don't have to scroll throughout the chatter, but please do use the chat feature to discuss among yourselves. So the idea is, again, to make this as interactive as possible. So my name is Pulido. I'm a technical evangelist at Datadog. I'm going to be moderating this panel. And I'm going to do a little bit of roundtable to let the panelists introduce themselves. So Ali, do you want to go first?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Ara, first. Hello, I'm Alishiro, as pronounced. I'm based in Paris, France, and I'm working at Datadog as a marketing team lead since almost 3 years now. In short, I'm supporting engineering growth in the EMEA region. I'm also co-lead of Rainbow Dogs, our new community guild supporting LGBTQIA plus and allies community at Datadog. And I'm nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Florbela?
Hi, everyone. I'm Florbela. I have been almost 4 years at Google working as an SRE. I am an SRE manager for a global team. That means I take care of the reliability of one of the flagship products. And I'm very happy to be in this panel and discuss something that's very close to my heart. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Pavi?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Hi, my name is Pavi, and I've lived basically in India most of my years, and I've relocated now to Germany, and I'm working for METRO.Digital as a product manager for now close to 4 years. I have been a developer, a DevOps engineer, and now a product manager. What interests me the most is that how different we are all as people, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, everyone. So building DevOps diverse teams. So I think to kick off the conversation, and because diversity may mean different things to different people, let's go through the round table and ask you what does it mean to you having a diverse DevOps team? So Florbela, do you want to start? What diversity and diverse teams mean to you?
Yeah, thank you, Ara. Diversity to me, we tend to bundle diversity with inclusion, and I tend to go more into the inclusion because diversity to me means bringing your differences to the table and being included in the conversation. So building diverse teams means that I get people from all sorts of life context ranges, different intersections. Like we tend to focus on things that we can measure, like gender and others, but like there are so many cultural aspects and nationality and others. So to me, diversity means that the team includes the value of those diverse people into the value that they produce. So a diverse team is an inclusive team. It's a team where everyone feels valued by their uniqueness.
Good, thank you. Pavi, your take.
Yeah, so for me, diversity means different. And I think this uniqueness in each one of us is interesting, and how we work, how we bring in our uniqueness in the team, and then how we work together to deliver value. This is what is interesting for me, because as you know from the Clifton strengths, that each person is having a particular strength in a particular direction, and we all are stronger together with building, coming together from different perspectives and different direction together working as a team. So this for me is diverse DevOps team.
And what about you, Ali? Thank you, Pavi.
Building diverse SRE DevOps teams for me means to actively, intentional, inviting a range of different people with educational, professional backgrounds, gender, literally voices to solve the more complex challenges. This is for me about cognitive diversity. This is about innovation. We're working in such fast-paced and competitive environment where technologies are moving so fast. We need to attract, to retain the best talent, to create high-performance teams and products. For me, it's participating in building environment where everyone feels accepted, valued, empowered. And from a recruitment perspective, it's finding SRE DevOps that will be role model for others.
Good. So we are talking a lot about building diverse team and how to include that diversity into those team, and obviously it's a great thing that is happening, that we are talking more and more about these topics. So why are we talking about these topics, and why we're bringing them to the table more and more often? So Pavi, for example, we can start with you. Why the effort? Why we're doing this?
Yeah, so there have been a lot of proof around how diverse teams contribute in earning more revenue for the organization, and it has also helps in innovation, and also there are various studies. I am more into diversity in gender and also in diversity in culture studies. So and to maybe just to say with an example, there is this study that was done which focuses on looking at how men and women behave when under stress, like how do they react to stress. And it seems that men tend to take higher risk when they are stressed, because that is how they are framed biologically. So in the old hunter-gatherer days, when there was danger around, so the focus was to kill the predator and to win. And that means that men are usually biologically tend to take higher risk without assessing what is the outcome, or meaning without thinking so much about the guaranteed return. Whereas women, on the other hand, they think a little differently. That is, they are biologically wired to look at a broader perspective and take limited risk that has guaranteed return. And when you bring these two people together, these two thought processes together, you have this a good contradiction or good conflict that will rise, or that will result into taking a limited risk that has some that like optimal risk and a good return. So that kind of a mixture is present. So this is what is one example or one benefit that diversity brings, like at least the gender diversity brings. The second aspect that I know is also about the age factor, the diversity in age. So there has been also research there which talks about how having people from different age group helps in retention, helps in education and happiness in the team. So yeah, these are some of my aspects or benefits that I think that diversity can bring in a team. Thanks.
Florbela, do you want to add anything there?
Oh, Pavi, they did a great job, like just framing it in such a great way, like with age and different diversity. Maybe one thing that I can add is, like, for example, in SRE, we also, like, we are faced with problems, hopefully problems we haven't seen before, because if we've seen them before and we didn't fix them, then we don't like this. But most of the times, like, we are faced with unknown situations. And a lot of for example, the incident commander role is to figure out options, like what haven't we done before? What could we do more? If you have a set of people that all think the same, they're going to get stuck and the problem doesn't get solved, right? Diversity brings that perspective, that thing that, like, someone on their experience has seen something similar before, right? Or they check on the communications. We haven't communicated in the right way. So all of these skills are fundamental, especially when you are dealing with issues that need to be fixed, right? And increasing the reliability. And I think this is something that sometimes doesn't get said often enough, if you want to be thinking out of the box, you have to expand that box, and that box is made of all of those people with diverse backgrounds and diverse experiences, and like all sorts of those dimensions. So I do think, and like we at Google really encourage this diversity of thinking, because like when someone is faced with unknown situations, that's when the out of the box thinking really helps to fix things quickly. So I think that's something that's quite an interesting point of view that I don't see written enough as well.
That's a fantastic point, Florbela. I really like it. Sometimes when you're trying to solve a problem, you need to talk to people and you need to ask questions and get different views. And obviously, if the views that you're getting back are the same as the ones you had, you end up on a deadlock without being able to solve quickly the problem. That's a very good point. Thanks for adding that. Cool. So obviously, we know diversity is not only a pipeline problem. It's not that we need to bring those people in, but we need to start. So if we structure this conversation as a kind of a pipeline of diversity, we have to start hiring more diverse teams and more diverse people. So Alison, you are an expert in recruiting. So what are your views about hiring for diversity and things like having a specific goals for diversity or having a specific strategy? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like to emphasize how serious it is taken into account by some of the tech giant and small startup. Everyone on the market today is able to communicate publicly on some diversity objectives. When it comes to topics such as sensitive topics, it is important to set goals and targets, particularly to measure the effort and to quantify the impact. Of course, it's not telling the entire story, but it's a first step. Companies are sharing diversity reports more and more, so we have access to these insights. I have two examples in mind, Airbnb and Facebook, that commit strongly with the deadline 2025 and 2024, and are aiming to increase the representation of women to 50% of their workforce. These goals, for me, are driving the effort into the organization in the right direction. Then there is sourcing effort, hiring targets, some referral program, some strong commitment to find more leaders from underrepresented minorities. And personally, from my experience in recruiting, I believe we need some targets to drive and measure the performance. And in my different experience, it helps me to set some priorities, some commitment, and some objectives for the recruiting team. And it's also a great way to onboard not only recruiting, but also stakeholders, hiring managers and the team with us and together to try to make things moving. So, yeah.
Good, and you point something I think that is very important. Like you mentioned on the list of things, one that I think is critical, which are referrals and having referral programs to help. So, Florbela, you're a manager. You get to build the team's base a lot on referrals from your direct reports. Is it something that's whenever we do a referral program in our organizations, I think it has two sides, because for one, you say, okay, the diversity people can bring more, but then if the majority of the company is already white cis men, that they are going to refer more people like themselves. So how do you balance those two things?
That's an excellent question. I think like referrals are good to give some signal in hiring, especially we use them like to know if a candidate kind of has the references and like to get also the insider view from the Googler. But like I don't think those are key. Referrals are really not key to diversity. I'd like to talk about something else that we do that we started doing which a lot of us are involved with directly with hiring, and it goes to the point that Pavi was mentioning a little bit on like the risk taking side of things. When one of the things we started doing is talking to prospective candidates well before they apply. What we noticed is you can have all of the hiring pipeline in the world, but if people don't apply because they don't feel sure, because they don't feel identified with the current population, right? You talked about that. Like if they don't look like me, do I even belong there? And that has been very successful, even more than referrals. We started the program where we talk to the candidates, like I talk to a lot of people, and really give them the insight, the good and the bad of the experience of being at Google, why we want to, we do the things that we do, especially in SRE, where it's less known than the pure development side of things, right? Everyone knows what a programmer is, but like a DevOps or SRE is like not so easy to identify with. So I think like talking and working with recruiting very closely, talking with people, like I talk with people who have the same age as I do, the same gender as I do, and they come to me like, I'm not sure if I would succeed in the role. Like, what does it look like day to day? And just talking about that, it reduces the risk threshold, right? It increases the familiarity, and it says to the candidate, like, people like me are working there and it's working, why not me? And just like going for the application itself, and then the pipeline sorts it out. But just like that barrier to application, to like, I'm not sure if I'm right for that company, that has been something that has been extremely successful, much more than referrals. So it goes a little bit into like also internal mobility and transfers. There's nothing like someone talking to the hiring manager and asking, so what is your day-to-day job? Like, how does it look like? And it kind of, we go across that internal knowledge into the external side of the pipeline. And I think that's extremely important. It has been, and it's quite rewarding as well for all of us to participate in that.
Good. By the way, you don't have to wait. If you want to add anything, you don't have to wait for me to know if you want to add. So just talk if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I have something to add on to what Florbela said. That's an excellent idea. Also, I had read one of the Howard articles which talked about using certain words, like how you word your job description also matters, because some things appeal more to men and some words appeal more to women. So you make it neutral as much as possible so people can kind of connect to that job. And the second thing that I learned from my lean-in circles, which is like employee resource group, is that we all have biases in us, and being conscious about that is very important. And especially when before getting into interviews, you ensure that you have a set of questions that you're going to ask and a criteria for judgment. So you predefine this so you do not go on your stomach feeling, because I think there is this Stanford study, John and Jenny. So it was the same CV, but only the names changed, and people chose to recruit John over Jenny, whereas the resume were exactly the same. So to overcome these, and I think all of us have bias, so I think just to strategize and to not get into these traps, you just have a predefined criteria, and then when you're evaluating, you go on those criteria. So that is one strategy that you can use for recruiting.
And this is where, as a tech recruiter, we can be an ally. For example, within the intake meetings, we can take a step back and questions and challenge the must-have and the requirements, just to be sure we narrow down and we are only focused on what is really, really important, and not to have the long list of keywords and expertise that is needed. Studies show that women tend to less apply, right, to jobs where there is a ton of bunch of tools and things to know for a job. So there is a lot of mechanism, as you said, job ads, with the terms that we can review, the intake meetings where we can have a peer discussion and challenge some of the criteria. And within the process, then, of course, it's about education, being sure that we connect people to others that reflect to them. And so, yeah, agreed on the recruiting side, we have so many things that we can do.
Good. So I think this take us very well to maybe the next step in the pipeline. So we've talked. Pavi was talking that every one of us have biases. That's something that culturally we learn over the years, and things that we need to unlearn basically. So I think one of the very important things to make sure that these people can thrive when they come in is to make sure that the rest of the company understand those biases and understand those differences, which can be like biases are not forever, like they can be unlearned. So that brings us to what Ali was saying, education. So Ali, going back to you, what do you think a company can do to make that happen?
The first step for me is the awareness. That's the necessary basic that we need to acknowledge. There is a lot of courses that are brilliant about unconscious bias, communication style, management style, to help people understand how to communicate efficiently with others, how to be inclusive in meetings. We talked earlier also about employee resource groups. We started to mention them. I think they could raise topic and they have a real role to create safe space, to push discussions, and to help people to take a step back, reflect on themselves, and understand that, yeah, we have some bias, and yeah, we can go over them, or at least we can discuss to understand what are the mechanisms in place.
Good. Pavi, do you want to add to the topic of educating the different teams?
Yeah, so one thing here, as you said, we all have unconscious bias, and it is part of our how we are. We always try to protect ourselves, and we immediately try to judge things. So that's normal. So we have to just accept it how it is. And another thing is to create this psychological safe environment, and how we create that is by treating everything as a learning process. So allowing people to be them, like for example, even if something happens, like okay, some of your colleagues, or even for that matter me, say something that is not right in the situation, my colleague can treat that as a learning process and ask me questions of why did I react that way. Or if in this John and Jenny case, if I select John and I make pass a remark on Jenny, my colleague can enlighten me by asking some probing questions. Why did you do that? And then in this questioning style and treating this as a learning process, you kind of create this psychological safe environment where you allow people to make mistakes and yeah, so to grow. So yeah, so that is one aspect that I would consider.
Good. Florbela, do you have any examples of training that your teams have been done specifically to raise awareness?
So we have wonderful training programs at Google that go to the individual level and also training the teams. And Pavi mentioned unconscious bias. That's one of my favorite ones, because like just going through that training, you've become so much more aware of how in your next interactions, even for yourself, and you're like, oh, am I being biased or not? And just the awareness is like a huge leap in just getting the things out there. Also, assuming good intent is also like a good principle to go into all the conversations. So that training is great. We also have training specific for teams on psychological safety. Google is known for its research on Project or Oxygen. It's widely available, and psychologically safety in a team is like basically the pillar of things. One of the things that we have as well beyond, I mean, training can only go so far. You can train the whole organization and still stuff like needs to happen and it doesn't happen. I think one of the important things that we also like, myself as manager of managers, there's a lot going on. The culture of the team, of the local team, supersedes the culture of the organization, right? Like that gelling of the team. And one thing that we have that is very good is training for and kind of this emphasizing the role model example, and also on the allyship, right? Making sure that the people who are in the room that feel comfortable, they are allies for the other ones that maybe are still not there on the psychological safety side. So being an ally and being a role model, I think that multiplies that effect of the training. And that's something that we have also started at Google, taking really seriously in trainings in ERGs and others, because it makes a difference. It's basically the empathy, right? Being there, understanding the environment, and being an ally for others and stepping in for others.
Good. So yes, I completely agree. These trainings are amazing and really help you be more aware. Like I consider myself like kind of part of diversity in tech. I'm a woman in tech. I'm part of the LGBTQ community. So I'm part basically of two of these groups. And every time that I go through one of these trainings, I learn a lot, and I be more aware of my own privileges. So it's I really recommend everyone to follow those if they have access to those resources. So one of the things that you mentioned, Florbela, and it's being an ally, and I think that's also very important when we think about retention. So we talk about a lot of maybe we talk a lot about hiring, and we now start talking also about retention and how we can retain these people, and how sponsorship and mentorship is part of that. I think that being an ally is very similar to a sponsorship. Who wants to start talking a little bit about mentorship and sponsorship and the difference between those two? Pavi, do you want to? Yes, Ali, go.
As you prefer. I can share a piece of my experience in my previous company when I joined. I did both sponsorship and I benefit from mentorship. Mentorship was I found a leader into the organization that supported me in onboarding and growing in my function within the organization, which helped me to navigate through an environment that I didn't know, and really to give me some direction, explanation, and support. And that helped me to grow. We fixed some target together to develop myself and some skills. And thanks to that, after the 11 months, so almost a year there, we did a retro, and it was brilliant to see the impact of the fact that we collaborate together to make me moving forward in my career and in the work environment. For the sponsorship, I had the chance to be part of some ERGs, and one of them was they were looking for people to help others at a small scale, and just to be there to support as an ally, definitely. It was for giving courses, and they were not asking really to me to teach something and to elevate them, but it was kind of someone that's put on the table the role and their expertise and try to make something with them, and it works really, really well on both. And I personally learned from both, which was a really, really great experience. And as a woman, I thought it was really important for me to feel supported, and also to be able to give back and to have some impact within the organization.
Good. This is fantastic. If we continue on the path of retention, I think it's important as well to talk about growth and career growth, because obviously people, if they feel that they are not hitting their career goals, whatever they might be, they are probably going to look elsewhere to reach those goals. Pavi, what do you think we can do as organizations to make sure that everyone, no matter of the background, can be successful in an org?
Okay. So, I read this sentence in one of the articles which said that diversity is getting called for the party and inclusion is dancing together. I don't know who said it, but I just remembered it. So when I think it's good that we look at the goals, we set goals, and we meet our recruiting target to form a diverse team. At the same time, I think it's important that so somewhere this connection to understand that how I'm different and how I'm contributing to this bigger cause kind of gives this person some kind of, like a feeling of, this is where I'm contributing and this is my role here, and not feel punished for being different or thinking differently. For example, I'm the only female team member in my team, both the teams, and when I see that people think differently and I am thinking in an entire different way, I'm not beating. Earlier, it used to be that I used to beat myself up, thinking, why am I not thinking like them? I mean, what is wrong with my thought process? But once I learned about the study of how people look at things differently and how risk taking is different and how people judge a particular situation, it kind of made me feel comfortable that, oh yes, I am different and this is how I think and this is a different perspective and it is helpful. So once I started thinking in this direction, I stopped beating myself up and started feeling comfortable in the way I think naturally, and started looking at what are my strengths and how I can contribute towards my team, and realize this and how I can contribute towards the organization. That is one aspect. And also repeating again, there has been research about having people from diverse age kind of contributing towards better retention, because experienced employees feel satisfied when they share their experience, and the younger employees who have less experience feel nice to learn from somebody experienced. So there is a good mixture or good mood in the team and in the organization that leads to retention. And also there has been study that when you have a mixture of men and women in the team, there is also a good happiness in the team, and that also leads to a good retention in the organization. So these are the aspects that I can think of.
Yeah, those are great. Thanks, Florbela. From a career ladder point of view, what are your thoughts about making sure that, and it's a little bit related as well with the sponsorship. Obviously, when you get a promotion, probably it's because someone has put a good word for you. What are the strategies that you follow as a team manager to make sure that everyone can reach their goals?
That's such a broad question, but maybe let me bring in one of the things, like starting with the mentoring and sponsoring. I think there needs to be a mix of both. To me, like, mentoring is giving someone the tools and the advice and the knowledge. Sponsoring is making sure someone has the opportunities, right? So sponsoring and mentoring are very different, but they need to work together. And I think, like, the hard part of being part of a minority, whatever that intersection may be, is like Pavi was saying, like, I'm thinking differently? Is this wrong? And it is really hard. It is really, really hard. So I think, like, the visibility, like the sponsoring, having someone that is your sponsor, even if you don't know, but if you are part of that minority, being sponsor of those of the people in that ERG or that minority, is giving them the network, is giving them, like, speaking about them in different occasions, and basically creating these opportunities, right? And for this is like, we need to understand what are the skills that people bring to the table. Do they have the right career path? And sometimes also, like, I want to relay something the other day, like, and things that are really obvious to us after being in the organization for a while, right, are really not obvious to someone who's just starting, especially now with all of this working from home, this disconnection. And things as simple as, like, the other day I was talking with someone and I told them, like, but you are now having, like, performance review conversations, like, do you bring up your next step in the career? And they were like, oh, I thought my manager was supposed to do that. And like, no, you should ask. Oh, but I don't know. even things like personality, like introverted personality, can be such career blockers, and it's all in the assumptions, in the way that the team works. So like those kind of conversations, that's where mentoring really helps. And for me personally, being a manager of managers, making sure that the organization that I lead follows that very closely, right? That the managers create those conversations, that they make the visibility, right? They share the skills of someone so that I can talk about that person when I see opportunities for them. So just getting that into the system, it makes such a difference in people feeling included and growing, right? Just because they know and they have someone that kind of gives them knowledge that may be completely hidden for them, or being assumptions based on their own background.
I really like that. I think it's important for managers, I always say, to ask questions, so people know that they are open to answer those and have those conversations. Sometimes people don't even know that they're able to have those conversations with their managers. So you brought something that I think we can dive a little bit deeper, which is different communication styles. And I think you mentioned being an introvert may be a career blocker because of this reason, because you're not open to have those conversations more naturally than an extrovert could do. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, it can be introverts and extroverts. It can be not being a non-native speaker versus native speakers. Let's start with Pavi. What are your thoughts about having those different communication styles and making sure that we have an environment where everyone can thrive?
Yeah. Communication, I think, is a bigger problem, even I think if everybody thinks alike. And especially when you're coming from different culture, different communication styles, I think that becomes a bigger complex problem to solve. And there are many factors here, like you said, Ara, about introvert, extrovert style, and also about the culture aspect. For example, the culture map in the book Culture Map, Erin Meyer talks about her experience with Asian who was just waiting for a chance to talk, and because he did not talk, she thought that he doesn't have anything to add, and she was disappointed. Whereas naturally Asians tend to give some space and then talk. That is how they think that this is how I should behave. This is how you behave in a respectful way, and not what is that overlapping conversation. So understanding these small aspects kind of goes long way in helping communication style. Also with this introvert extrovert style, I really like the GitLab way of working, where they document everything, where one of their focus is this inclusion of having also introverts contribute their points in a document where they're the way they are comfortable. So this is one style that I liked from GitLab. Yeah.
Good.
Some point.
Ali, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, it's in line. There are so many techniques to help people to feel more included. We are more and more in a world where there is distributed teams. When we interact with people, we can have people speaking all together in a room and people in the screen. I had a lunch with the manager before the chat, and we discussed about making remote folks talking first, proposing them to take the mic first, for them to set the bar, to put the topics they have, and not just to kind of wait for them to have the right to speak, which I found really great and a good techniques. There is round robin techniques, the note taker that I love also, every time changing the one that will maybe do the sum up of the meeting and share things with others, that could empower the ones that maybe they have strong skills, written skills, and maybe are more introvert to share that out loud. So yeah, about the techniques, there are so many that we can do to be sure we are able to communicate whatever the media is.
Sounds good. So Florbela, have you found any difference between Google? Google was a very in-office kind of company, and obviously 18 months ago, as everybody else had to go to work fully remote. Have you found differences and challenges and benefits, both sides, on this shift of communication?
Yeah, I think like all global companies in the world, and Ali touched that a little bit. There were like the world is round, right? Like, and especially in SRE, we tend to work with teams that they may be like 9 hours away, and this is very difficult. And the pattern that before we were working from home, we were each one like the meetings would be 2 rooms like in opposite sides of the world, and you could see like the little heads on the other side, etc. And there's always this like us versus them, and then maybe someone would be joining in and they are like that lone square on the on the meeting room, and that made quite for the imbalance in communication, right? Like we figured it out, and at the end, once a team is tenured and is gelling well, like this goes away. But especially for newcomers, it tend to be difficult. And one wonderful thing that I found is like as we went through to work from home in the middle of all of this like dreadful things, we actually, it was, to me, for example, it was great to log in into a meeting and I wasn't the one logging in like off hours, like on the corner. We all had our little corners, and even better, we had names. So I could, that was great for me to memorize, and like there was a person there, and the communication just flowed in a more balanced way. So that to me was like one of the advantage that now as we go back into the office and some people are dialing in, it's really on the top of my mind, like how do we preserve that inclusivity, right? Like I hope some of the habits that we take actually improve the inclusion, because that was one of kind of the highlights in the middle of so much crisis. That actually was like, oh, okay, so now we are all on the same foot, all communicating together in using the same the same context, right? Like the context became the same for everyone, and that really helped bringing teams together. I noticed like my global team really came together much more, and using other tools like chat, etc., that before were not so used. That thing increased inclusivity a lot. So I hope we somehow translate that as we go back to the office.
Sounds good. I really agree. I one of the things that I like when there are people remote, even though some people are in offices, is when they join a call directly themselves with their laptops, rather than having a conversation where you feel a little bit of outsider. And you brought up another very good topic: the ability to know the names. Sometimes you work with a very big teams, and you forgot, maybe you don't work that often with someone and you forgot their names, and you feel shy about saying something or trying to ask them because you forgot their name. Like it's very helpful. So yeah, we really need to make sure that going back to offices, we think about these things and how it had helped inclusivity. So we are having a couple of minutes left. We don't have a hard deadline, so we can go a little bit over, no worries. But I think it would be good if we finish again doing a little bit of round and pick. I would like you to pick one action item you would a suggestion that you would give teams to improve their diversity. So obviously there are a lot to do. There are a lot of things that can be done, but if you can pick just one thing, Ali, what that would be?
Make it as important as other business objectives. By that, I mean being intentional and set clear goals about expected outcomes, and why not making it part of the OKRs.
Very good, thank you. Florbela?
Yeah, to me, like anyone can be an ally, a champion of inclusivity, and I think inclusion goes a long way after you hire to actually retain the talent and make sure that they are happy and your team is happy. So if there's one thing you can do, be an ally, have empathy, understand the people that you're working with, and like step in when you think things are not okay. That goes really a long way to improving diversity and retention, especially.
Very good. Pavi?
Yeah, so going by my natural choice, I'm always excited when I learn something new. I try to tell it to as many people as possible. So I focus on educating people more and more about bias, about these facts. I think this is very, very important. Like looking at the facts and not the stomach feeling. And yeah, this is my action item, I would say.
Very good, and they are quite intertwined. Obviously, you first educate people, so they are aware of their privilege. Then they can become an ally, and then you can meet your business goals. This has been a pleasure. This has been a fantastic panel. Thanks, three of you, for joining and for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your experience. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks everyone for joining today. And we have one session left in that, so let's enjoy that last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.